What's up, fourth graders? It's Mr. Peters here. We're going to do Unit 7, Module 1, Session 5. And as you can see here, it's all about generating equivalent fractions. And that's one of those terms that we worked on yesterday. We talked about a little bit yesterday. With equivalent fractions, it's key parts where they're equivalent. Equivalent simply means that they have equal parts, or they're equal to each other. And then fractions, once again, you're breaking something into the equal parts. You're trying to find fractions that would be equal to each other. Our goals today. Now they might look a little bit confusing at first, but once we break them down and we go through them today, it should hopefully be a little bit clearer. So our first one, I can use a visual model to explain why a fraction AB is equivalent to a fraction n times A and n times B. So with that, the idea is that n is just some number we pick, whether it's 3 times bigger, 10 times bigger. If we multiply a fraction by a certain number, it'll get bigger, but it'll be equivalent to the original. And then I can recognize and explain using visual model that equivalent fractions are the same. We're going to use some of our visual bars. I can recognize the equivalent fractions. So when you see two fractions, you recognize, hey, those two are actually the same thing. They're equal to each other. And then I can generate a fraction equivalent to a fraction, AB, by multiplying the numerator and the denominator by the same number. And once again, here's our cute little picture. I love a challenge. Dog helping the cat. All right, vocabulary, denominator, fancy word for that bottom number. Numerator, fancy word for that top number. Fraction, once again, means that you have something less than a whole and you broke it into equal parts. That's why fraction is really actually dividing as well. And then the equivalent fraction is finding fractions that are equal to each other. Our first one here, once again, this is kind of like what we would do in the classroom, so I'm going to do some of the work here for us. Feel free to pause it to do some thinking in between as I do the think, but I'm going to try to keep going. So hopefully the video is not as long as what some of ours have been recently. All right, so 2/3. I need to fill in 2/3 of my first bar. So I'm going to just color my first bar here. 1/3, 2/3. Okay. Now, the part that we want to show, as we said with our problem or our goal today, it was multiplying the numerator and the denominator by the same number. Now, right here with our fractions written with the slash, it could look a little bit confusing, but I'm going to just rewrite it. This is 2/3, and then it's times 2 times 2. And that is really what we are doing right now. Okay. So I'm going to shade in my 2/3 again down here, but this time 1/3, 2/3. I'm going to take my black pen here, and I'm going to divide the fraction part by 2 for each, because when we multiply and you're multiplying the fractions, you actually are adding extra parts to it. So I'm going to take each third and I'm going to draw a line in the middle of it. Okay, now I'm just going to refresh this so we can see it. All right, so now it's the same fraction. I didn't shade anything more or anything less. It's the same part that I shaded, but now all of a sudden, because I added those extra lines in, now our 2/3, we switched it, and now it's become 1, 2, 3, 4 out of 6, or 4/6. Okay, now I did that by drawing it out, but you can see on my multiplication problem down here, I also did multiplication. I had my numerator, 2 times 2 equals 4, and then my denominator, 3 times 2 equals 6. Okay, I'm going to do the same thing now quickly here. Shade in my 2/3 to start again. So we're starting with that 2/3 again. But now this time, I'm going to divide each section into 3 parts. So let me just re-outline my outside here for us. So you can see it. And then I'm going to do 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, and then our last one is 3. Okay, so once again, you can notice all three of these bars here are shaded in the same amount of blue there. Okay, but the difference, now I've changed the total sections though. Each section is smaller, but there's more of them. So when we started, we had our thirds, then we went to sixths, and now if we look, I went 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So now I did 2 thirds, sorry, and then I did times 3 times 3. And if I look, I can get 6 ninths. And when we look at our bar, we count up the blue sections, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 out of 9 total, 6 ninths. Okay, so that's how you generate equivalent fractions. All you do is multiply the numerator and the denominator by the same number. So if you're asked on a test, give an equivalent fraction to 3/4, you simply would pick a number and you'd say 5. So you'd take your 3/4 times 5, you do your 3 times the 5 and your fourths times the 5, and whatever answers you get, those are your new numerators and denominators. And so I'm going to actually do that one for you right now on here. I'm not going to do all of these. Feel free to do these. If you want to pause, you can see we have fourths, we have fifths. On the next page, we'll have sixths and eighths for you. Like I said, I'm not going to do all of them. You can do them on a whiteboard to practice as well. I would recommend doing the 3 bars and then divide them out. But so our starting fraction here, once again, is 3/4. And then I'm going to try to change it. So I'm going to take my 3/4, I'm going to color it in. There's 1, 2, 3. Okay. Now, like I said, this is going to get a little bit tricky because I'm going to have to write pretty small. So I'm going to flip my screen here for a second, actually. And so with this, I said that I want to change my 3/4, and I'm going to multiply it by 5. Now, you don't have to go by 5. You can pick whatever friendly, easy number you want. I like multiplying by 5s. I find them easy, but it should be easy for us to do. So I'm going to solve my problem and then check it on my board to see if it works. So 3 times 5 is 15. 4 times 5 is 20. So I am thinking that 15/20 is an equivalent fraction to 3/4. So what I need to do here is I need to divide each section 5 times. So I'm going to try that now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So now we took our big bar here. I didn't change how much is colored in. If I look and I wanted to count it out, we would end up getting up to 20 total. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. So we still have our 20 total like we thought. And if we look, there's 5 that weren't shaded in. So that means that 15 were shaded in. We could count up to 15. All right. So when you're doing your equivalent fractions, all that you need to do is multiply the numerator and the denominator by the same number. Now you can divide them by the same number too. But for now, we're just working with multiplication. But if you wanted to simplify your fractions, dividing them by the same number works as well. Okay. So I'll leave these pages here. If you wanted to pause the video, you could set up your 6th and 8ths to do your own shading in if you want. This would be the activity that you would typically do during the classroom. After we did 1 or 2 together, you'd be off doing this part on your own. And then once again, we have 10ths and 12ths as well. I'm going to actually pause and do one of the 12ths. So I'm going to show you what I mean a little bit by our 12ths. So if I had 3 12ths, like I said, you could do multiplication or division. Now, if this part doesn't make sense to you, you can skip this part of the video. I could divide both these numbers, a number that works, and this is why it's a little bit trickier for the division, because you have to find a number that works for both. I can divide 3 by 3, and I can divide 12 by 3. So 3 divided by 3 equals 1. 12 divided by 3 equals 4. So what that's telling me is that 3/12 is equal to 1/4. And if I shade this in, and I shade, oops, let me get rid of that. One, 2, 3. Now, what I can also do is I'm going to outline it in a darker black or a bold black here. If I go around my box here, and now I want to divide it into 4 equal parts, each part is going to have 3 smaller sections in it. So you can now see I've made 4 sections there, and 1 is colored in. So 1 out of 4, or 1/4. So you can go both ways with finding fractions there like that, finding equivalent fractions. Sometimes fractions can't be broken down any further. Like 1/4, I can't break it down any further. 1's a prime number. All right, so now it's your turn to do it today. For this part, you're going to simply shade in the boxes, just like they show on the 2 examples. So shade in 2/3. Now, I don't necessarily like it that on this sheet we show the times 1 times 1. It's okay, it's just there. But really that first box at the top, that's your original, like what Mr. Peters had. And then down beneath, you can pick which number you want to multiply each by. If you want to do 2 and 2, you could do that. If you want to make it more challenging, you can. But the idea then is once you have that, you can also show it here depending on how much you multiply by on your fraction bar. Okay, so for that, you just have this page today for your work as well. Now, typically this would have been our part where we did our reflecting on Unit 7 pre-assessment, but since you guys didn't do the pre-assessment and we already kind of went over it with you, that's why this lesson's a little bit different for today. So there's not a whole lot of work for you to do. It's more about you practicing and exploring with equivalent fractions. Okay? All right, and guys, we got this. If you need any help, always reach out to us. You're fabulous 4th grade teachers. We are here for you. If you need anything, just ask. And have a great day. And enjoy the weather once it gets nice out. It's supposed to get nice soon.